Welcome, everybody, and greetings from Glastonbury, actually. I'm happy to be giving my non-dual astrology transmission for May 2024. And also, I'll be speaking a little bit about the launch of my book, Dakini Weaving, which I'll just talk about a little bit in a minute. So many of you have been watching the channel for a while. And yeah, you're going to see a lot more transmissions, I hope, in the near future, because now my baby is being born. Something of a baby anyway. It's not really a baby. It's a wise being from many wise beings. And I'm just somebody who's helped make it happen. But I should have more time for the channel, which makes me happy. And I'm really grateful to all of you who've been coming along, watching these transmissions. And I really hope they're useful for you. So some of you may not know what a non-dual astrology reading is, and this following slide just helps you to land in that. I also have some longer free videos on my channel to help you really orient with what I feel is an important strand of astrology to help to lead us into a golden age. And actually in my book, I have a couple of chapters that go really deeply into weaving with the timelines and hopefully helping people to understand some of the key things that may come up for the collective and how they can start to cultivate and orient themselves into their highest flow and their highest dharma. And actually, I really believe that this year is a highest dharma sort of year. I think a lot of people who are already on a path to some sort of collective contribution to the golden age or to the new earth timeline, whatever you may call it, I think this is a really good year for getting yourself lined up. And actually, personally, I'm kind of going on sabbatical from teaching courses for a few months just to focus on soul surgery work with people, readings. And so this is a really good time if you'd like to come along for a reading or for any sort of support. This is a good time because as the boomerang of the book goes out, there will be something that comes back. And I don't know what that is, but we really want to honor those people who are already in touch with our work and to hold a bit of a sacred space and to keep that space for people already engaged with us over the next 3 months as the boomerang of the book does its thing. So I'm not going to go into too much depth about Dakini Weaving, Keys to the Golden Age, because it's quite a long book. And as I've received the print copy, it really does look like a kind of guidebook on many levels. It's wonderful seeing these things in print. In short, it holds many, it's a synthesis in many ways of why, in order to honor the masculine feminine that we all have within, that we need to start to understand this process of weaving and moving beyond just being these vertical pillars of strict lineage, whilst I 100% honor lineage and talk a lot about lineage in the book. It's also about how we can adopt these ways of seeing that the adepts, the indigenous tribes have been incorporating for thousands of years, and how we can help to actually release ourselves from samsara through starting to interact with the world in a different way. And then it also looks at multidimensional approaches and karmic approaches to trauma, to how we work with quantum modalities, to permaculture, to biomimicry, so many things, to the timelines of the coming years and how we can prepare for and help to co-create a golden age. So yeah, it's up on Amazon already for pre-order, and then the print copy will go live at midnight on the 8th of May. And yeah, I just really want to give gratitude to all the teachers, wisdom keepers, elders, dharma holders and lineage holders who have taught me over the years, and also to just the huge writing team. There was definitely not just me sitting there doing this, and just for that grace that came through to help me to also overcome some of my own blockages and obstacles around speaking up about some things. So yeah, I really hope it finds its way to some of you and that it's really useful for you on your path. And we are going to have a Facebook Live, I think, on the evening in the UK of the 8th of May. So you're all really, really welcome to join that. And it'll be there rolling around Facebook Land for a while. And I'm also going to be doing a presentation, a little bit of a preview about the book, which is going to come out in early May, so that people can land a little bit more with what's in there. So as I said, I'm around offering readings, and actually I'm preparing some courses behind the scenes, but I've created some space. And so if you're in Avalon, come by. If you'd like to connect to have some readings, this is a really good time. Our team is also around doing holistic packages and clearing sessions. And I'm also giving Sekhem Reiki initiations in both May and June. So if you'd like to get attuned to this very powerful modality of energy medicine, then please get in touch. And please do like and subscribe and join our channel, because as I say, now that the book is freed up, there will be space. I have a lot of brewing little presentations and films to make for you, and I'm very excited about that. Okay, so let's move on to the astrology of the month. And I do want to give gratitude to the day keepers of the Mayan lands, to Jose Arguelles, to the Rishis, the celestial bodies, and Ganesha, the patron deity of Jyotish, the science of light. Okay, so, oh, there's a little typo. So we have Venus combust at the moment, and that will be so until June. So, yeah, that's not something that we need to pay too much attention to, because this happens quite a lot, because Venus and the Sun are usually very close together. But we also have Jupiter combust from the 4th of May to the 3rd of June. This, combined with some of the astrology that I'm going to be sharing, it could just make a little bit more confusion. We have a kind of confusing month coming up. I'm really seeing some of the karmic mechanisms at work, and I think I'm going to make a deeper transmission about what Saturn in Purva Bhadrapada means, which is something that I spoke of in a recent transmission about Saturn and Venus codes, but some of you viewers on YouTube may not be up to how important I think this transit is going to be for collective awakening. And so combust Jupiter is also, the Sun is basically sitting on top of Jupiter. So it's got some good ignition energy. We've got, Jupiter has a kind of ignition, activation energy, an expansion energy, and the Sun obviously is an illuminating force. But sometimes you can have too much fire, and what can also happen is when Sun combusts a planet, it can be thwarting that planet's own ability to do what it needs to do. And Jupiter is very deeply about our Dharma. When we work with some branches of Vedic astrology, we are working through the karmas and afflictions of each planet in order until we get to Jupiter. And the knock-on effect of any planet being dented really takes us off our Dharma path. And so it can seem a little bit tricky this month to expand, to know what to do next. It could be a little bit superficial, and we may feel disconnect from things like guru, from our teachers, from the true path. And it's interesting because I'm going to be talking, well, actually, I'll talk about this now. We've got a Rahu Mars conjunction, which has already started, which has a real agitating war energy. And I'm going to go into that in more depth. But I swear to you, we're already seeing the effects of this, and it's not really fully kicked in yet. Right on the 24th, our organization got a funny little communication, which we'd already seen this astrology coming, and it was like to the second. And in a way, it was a little bit Rahu-esque, trying to kind of bust for a fight on something when we know we've done everything that we needed to by the book, and impeccably as we can in this human body. And this is something that we're going to see quite a lot of, is Rahu is delusional, okay? And Rahu is our forward motion karma and many, many things in between. And Mars is like the commander-in-chief. It's also the celibate, the eunuch of the planets. And these two, when they get together, it's like head to head. Now, these are sitting in Revati, which I will talk about more later, but they're sitting in Pisces. So there's a spiritual mechanism with all of this, but it's going to be a month or so where you need to be really careful not to fly off the handle, examine yourself, tweak what you can, try not to be the Rahu person in any of these dealings, because the Rahu person is not is being deceptive. Okay, it's not clear and true. And unfortunately, or fortunately, as it may be seen, there's also something in the air, and this is really linked to the Saturn and Purva Bhadrapada in Aquarius that we've got at the moment as well. Is I've been saying this for a while, and those of you who've been at some of our regular one-day courses, you'll know I'm really warning people about this initiation we have to authentic spirituality and really walking our talk. And this is going to be a big thing for the following year. And yesterday, I literally woke up to a post about some people. I've met one of them who are being kind of outed as sort of spiritual frauds. And yeah, you know, it was a long time in coming. These people are nice people underneath, I'm sure of it, but there's also a little bit of the trying to be like Jesus thing, that and goddess robes and this affectation around spirituality, and people have really called them out now. And from there, the healing can begin, I believe. And I just see there's quite a lot of potential for the calling out of people. And as a non-dual astrologer, I really want to try to help people to understand we want to move beyond the duality of that. Yes, we have to protect our dharma. Yes, we have to do certain things, but this busting, you know, trying to aggress upon people, the aggressor sometimes is coming from a point of delusion as well. Okay, so it's a really good month not to get embroiled in that. And yeah, you may have people come to get you. It's really, and do examine everything you do right now. What I want to say is, there are several ways these things can go. If you know you're walking your talk, you have nothing to worry about. But if you have been kind of faking it a bit, you need to really pay attention now. People who've been overcharging or embellishing their spiritual realizations or embellishing their titles, all of those things, I'm going to give an example actually. I was recently on the Sasha Simon show, and I got up that morning and there was this really crazy description about me saying I was this super master of this Tibetan lineage. And I was like, what? And I got immediately in touch with our organization and just said, look, we need to put out a statement to just say we never said this, because we didn't. And what had happened was that Sasha Stone's admin woman had basically cut and paste where I'd mentioned the year before, I'd mentioned my teacher, because I was just really trying to share that he's around. I was just doing this thing in total service to my teacher, really. And so I said I'd be talking about him, and then they just cut and pasted it out and it made it look like it was me. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is awful. But I made provision, and I got in touch with the admin, and I got in touch with my organization so that we had a statement ready to go out. And I dealt with it immediately, because I wouldn't put myself out as that. But it was really funny because we've had some people trying to poke us, but we know that we've done everything the right way. So we're not really worried, okay? Because that's just whatever that was. It was just funny, but we didn't do it. And we know that in our heart of hearts. And we also know that the admin will explain that to anybody who needs. So there's the other side of that, which I see a lot of people who are maybe going to tumble in the coming times because they're proclaiming themselves masters of things that they're not masters of, or charging silly amounts. And so this outing of these people recently, I saw as this has been something that's coming. And with this Rahu Mars conjunction, you want to tighten up, and rather than being outer pointing the finger, many elders will say when you're pointing the finger, how many fingers are pointing back at you? Okay. So try to use this time wisely rather than busting to have a war with people and trying to, in a dualistic way, perceive that they're doing something. There are some people who it is their karma because of Purva Bhadrapada Saturn. It is going to be their karma to maybe have to realize where spiritual delusion has taken over. But try to really cultivate. And I'm going to be coming on to that when we go into Vedic astrology, because I was really grateful to see these signs in the celestial bodies through what's coming through. And ultimately, what I'm just going to say here and now is that any over pointing of the finger at people and judgy stuff, that is an imbalance of our masculine feminine. Okay, there we're not in peace ourselves. Okay, and so there's going to be a lot of people busting moves, and I know I'm not really saying the right saying, but poking fingers at people, and it it is said that there could be a lot more escalation in war, things like that. Now, what we do have on our side is that Rahu doesn't have form, and it's slippery, and it's a great teacher through its deception and insatiable appetite. But Mars is a very dedicated, humble, hardworking planet, and Mars will prevail. So this is why, if you are thinking, "Oh my goodness, oh, I need to look at this. I need to look at have I got the right credentials for what I'm saying? Am I doing the work? Where do I have to go next to make sure I am like the commander in chief, that I'm diligent in my job?" So if you spend your time really just walking your talk, and I think it's interesting that I'm offering Sekhem over this time because I'm just really getting the download. Sekhem is very much about walking your talk. Okay, it's known by some as the healer's healing, and we're very deeply focused on ethics and humility and doing the work to become that authority in something. So yeah, so there's these mechanisms in place to really tidy us up, and you're going to get tidied up for. So do you want to be somebody who gets singled out because you're proclaiming stuff or your ego's gone rife and nobody's kept you in check? Do you want to deal with that and make sure that you're watertight in terms of everything that you do, so that if somebody did poke a finger at you, if somebody came and audited you, somebody came to attack you, how would you deal with this? Because sometimes this is just a really good opportunity to just tighten up your work. Okay, but if you don't tighten up your work, you could get sloppy. Okay, and this is going to be up for the next year, so it's almost like this is an ignition that's going to be quite uncomfortable. And as I say, there are these people who want to have a fight with people, and they're going to be around. And of course, if you know anything about Buddhism and non-violence, the best thing to do in any sort of war situation is to withdraw. So we're going to come to that later, right? The most intense dates of this conjunction are the 18th and 19th of May. So just so you're aware of that. And then we have this very deep Taurian energy from the 19th of May to the 13th of June. We've got Jupiter, Venus, and Sun all there. Venus is very happy in there. And yeah, so this is marking as well what we're going to be seeing in Vedic sharing, is that we're coming into Jupiter changing house. So Jupiter is now coming into Taurus at the beginning of the month. And then there's also going to be Mercury joining. And sorry for another typo. So we have the 31st, we have Mercury joining, which comes into the early part of June. And there's a real stellium energy. So there's a lot of Taurus energy. So people have been saying this is a great time for wealth expansion. And for people who study Western astrology, we recently had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is in the ending degrees of Aries for Vedic astrologers, but was already in Taurus for the tropical Western astrologers. And so we do have this concept that we're in this expansion of wealth and grounded work, and also a bit of sensuality and focusing on what sustains us in life. And in some ways, it's also a time where we really need to look at our speech and how we cultivate that. So yeah, this is a whole new energy for a year, pretty much, in terms of Jupiter being there. And so whilst we may have, I think, a lot of these new novel ways of making money, or may not be necessarily crypto, it could be other forms of investment in ethical enterprises, things like that. New algorithms to help us make money. I know some friends who are working on an amazing project like that. All of these things, there's a step up for everybody. But this, again, I think that there's also going to be a sobriety coming in around the people who have been maybe overcharging and not being grounded in what they do, because especially this energy with the Mars Rahu conjunction is going to be bringing that up for people. Okay, so we're now going to move on to the dream spell, the wave spells of this time. So the wave spell being the 13-day cycles that we go through and the themes of each of them. And so right now at the time of making this and coming into early May, we're in the night wave spell. And night is a great time. It's really about liminal hybrid states. It's actually aligned with the east coast of Australia where the dreaming tracks begin. And it's a good time for working in a yin way and working behind the scenes and etherically working for the aspirational field rather than the manifestational field of what we need to call in for the greater good. So it's just amazing because this is hitting just as we come into Jupiter. So it's like a pre-Jupiter Taurus activation. And something that I share quite a lot, but may not have shared here recently, is that in natural law, really, the right way around of things is the dreaming before the doing. This goes back to creation stories. And when we dream something and we come into a shared field of consciousness, an aspirational field, we land with the abundance of all it is. And then that which we tap into, which is in an infinitesimal field, that then takes form and we do not have to want for anything. And it's very different in many ways from manifestation, which a lot of times has a lot of conscious intent applied. So for instance, our little organization, we're going to be doing some quantum jumping during that time. And yeah, just we're looking forward to that. And we're working at the moment behind the scenes, just dreaming what are our timelines for the next months. So this is a beautiful time. And this is really also in Vedic astrology and in Kalachakra astrology. It's right at the beginning of the astrological year. Okay, then we move to Warrior, and where our book, which also has connections into Shambhala, the Pure Land of Shambhala, and this whole thing of being a New Earth pioneer, Shambhala warrior, a Dakini weaver, New Earth visionary, whatever you may call it, this is all activating over this period of time for many people, because the warrior energy is very fearless. It's also where the night has been more etheric. The warrior is really about it's almost like the crown chakra, and it's in many ways this ability to be a stream of cosmic consciousness. And so in many ways it's moving beyond inertia. But it's interesting because this is right when we're in the middle of the Rahu Mars conjunction, and we got to be careful that our warrior doesn't go crazy here. But this is why, you know, the warrior in this system is somebody who's noble, who walks their talk, who steps forward fearlessly. So it's really important that you cultivate so that you know that you're in your highest path. When you're in your highest path, you have nothing to fear, okay? Because everything's just duality playing out, samsara playing out. And if you can, everything that you can dance with anything, okay? This is the tantra of things. You can dance with anything that comes your way, right? And so this is also, if you can just deploy your noble pioneer visionary energy, but to deploy it for the quest rather than the conflict, this is what I would recommend. Then from the 17th to the 19th, we have the moon. And so this is interesting because this is right when the Rahu Mars conjunction is hitting. This is all about purification, self-remembrance. It's also a good time for going into that more watery, unconscious part of trauma healing. And I find that Warrior and Moon are both very good for trauma healing. So this is the more dreamy yin way of healing. So again, use the time to focus on what are you remembering? What traumas are certain things bringing to the surface? Because the Mars Rahu conjunction is in a spiritual place, and some of these things are here to help you to maybe think, why have I attracted this situation? What's this about? Why am I in this? But to do the work around it. So it's a beautiful time for a little bit of purification and clearing, and a really nice time to work with water, if you work with water or the elements. And then we come at the end of the month into the wind wave spell. And the wind is very much about our speech, pristine speech. And this is interesting because we also have Mercury coming into the Taurian stellium, which is very much second house stuff, which is all about, the second house is related to speech. So there's going to be real emphasis, especially in June. And interestingly, we're in Gemini in Western astrology. Our connection to the divine, our connection to speech, our ability to find beauty in speech and communication, and to work into however that may need to be for us, whether it needs to be that we need to be more Venusian and more tactful and skillful in our speech, or if we need to illuminate something through our speech, all of these different things. But this is really interesting. It's that 13 days is a good time to examine, possibly as well, because it's linked to Taurus, and we have this energy around wealth creation. How am I marketing myself? How do I come across? How do I speak? How do I articulate? And how do I bring that through as a manifestation of the divine? And what do I need to polish and upgrade for this chapter? Okay. And then in the sacred calendar, the traditional Mayan calendar, from the 26th of April up till the 8th of May, we're in Cat Trecena. So it's similar to the Wavespell. It's a 13-day cycle. And Mark Elmy writes that the energy of Cat is beginning to gather the harvest. So this is one Cat, the day it starts on. And so there can be a sense of, if we look at the night as bringing through abundance, there's also this ability to find the things that have maybe that we've been sitting on, that have been like an investment. The cat represents the net. It is both the ability to find good things of value and to create abundance through those, but it's also sometimes the burdens we need to let go of so that we can walk less encumbered. We're carrying this net. So in the top right corner, this is somebody carrying almost like cat energy, all these things in their net. We have to be careful not to become weighed down by those. And it's a good time as well for us to step into a deeper beauty way of having what we need and knowing what that is. And we have to do a bit of an audit with this. But yeah, Cat is very much about learning what is weighing you down, okay? It's interesting for me reading this, because I started making this presentation a little while ago, and we are launching the book on the 8th and the 9th of May. And, there are many reasons why we're doing that, and which we'll probably explain on the Facebook Live. And so on the 8th, it's the last day of that Trecena. And for us, it's like this gestation of what I've been carrying of like 30 years of exploration in different fields is, what I'm giving that, people can reap rewards from that, I hope. And hopefully I will also get something nice from it. So it's really interesting that's happening then. And that is also on 13 Achmak, which is about this transcendental redemption energy. The 9th, we come into Noch Trecena, and this is all about knowledge, and it's that more practical knowledge that we may have that may be more cognitive, okay, than intuitive. And so there's ability here to solve problems, for new ideas to come through. And if we look at warrior being this conduit of cosmic consciousness, this information stream that can come through, we also have this more tangible grounding of that coming in. So a lot of what was going on with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is coming through, is going to maybe be more deeply seated over the month of May. And this is, again, why it's a good time to not get involved in conflict, but just really work on cultivating what you need to, right? This is super important. And just take the science from everything and start to embrace these new plans that are coming through. Then at the end of the month, we come into Tsi, and Tsi is the dog. And so this is all, again, this year, a lot of people are really exploring what is my soul tribe. And we just came out in recently of the dog wave spell in the Dreamspell calendar. Now we come into it here in the traditional Mayan system. And so this theme of a lot of people are realizing that the eclipse, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is bringing a lot of endings with certain relationships, certain commitments, certain courses, certain students, certain teachers. And there's this sense of people now trying to find their tribe. So Tsi also is a pack animal, and it is about finding the new people that we weave with, but also making sure we're overcoming codependency. It's also a lot about loyalty and faith. And so there's a whole new template coming for us, and a whole new soul groupings, affinity groups, guilds. This is important. And I'll tell you that I always in May do an audit. I do an audit every May and every November, where I look at who's coming in really strong in my life at the moment, and who's like not flowing so much right now, because it's just a natural thing that happens. And it's really interesting that this is all falling in May. It's this kind of tweaking, because I find it really good just for me to not waste time with, okay, I love this person, but it doesn't seem that we're supposed to do anything right now. So I shouldn't spend 2 hours having a Zoom call with them when they're not really there right now. Okay, I need to save that for the person who's really loyal, who's really in the field. So I encourage you to look at who's loyal, who's in the field right now. I don't think that anything is permanent, but to just honor and audit, okay, this is who shows up right now. So where do I give my heart? Where do I give my loyalty? Where do I give my time? And to just use that at least for about 6 months. We're going to have another eclipse in October, so that will shake things up again. So, but for now, you can be like, who's a keeper right now? And it doesn't mean anything negative. It's just like, okay, I'm just being logical about where I put my time. I love everybody, but this isn't rolling right now, so no problems. Let's not focus on what's not working right now. Okay, so yeah, so you may be finding this whole concept of soul tribe and things comes up again. It's definitely in the field for a lot of people right now. Okay, so back to the Vedic astrology. And I mentioned Jupiter into Taurus, so I'm not going to go too much into that, but this is beginning whole year of this energy from the 2nd of May. Now, something that I really want to speak of, which I believe is again part of this code of cultivation that we need, is that we have a beautiful, beautiful energy with Sun and Moon both being exalted over the 8th, the 9th, and 10th of May. Now, the 9th is the strongest day, but it really begins in the night of the 8th. For people in India, so further over east, they're celebrating it on the 10th. But for people a little bit further west, the 8th and the 9th is probably more ideal. And so what's happening here is that the sun is exalted in Aries and the moon is exalted in Taurus. And this is called an Akshaya Tritya. And you don't know, sometimes we do it without the A. It's really odd. I made some, I already deleted that. And then, yeah, it's come back in. Okay, funny little gremlins. So this is a really great day for wealth creation and expansion. And what I love about it is that's why, and I give gratitude to Swati Singh or Swati is saying, sorry, not the same as the nakshatra, because she gave me a reading a while back, and I'd asked her, when do you think I should do my book launch? And it's really interesting because I'd done divination and got the same block of days. Because for me, it was about the warrior wave spell and lots of things because of this pioneering energy that the book's about. So Sun and Moon exalted is beautiful in terms of Tantra. And if you work with any sort of cultivation where you really understand that your own internal energetics are totally how you can create peace, happiness, world peace, abundance, balance, everything, you know, it's an inside job. And so in principles of many sort of Tibetan and Indian philosophies, yogic philosophies, you have the sun and the moon channel, the left and the right channel, the Ida and the Pingala. And so having both of them at their optimum position on the same day is truly magical. And for me, because the book is also about Kalachakra Tantra and helping people understand also what the difference between ancient Tantra and Neo-Tantra is, and how it's all really about us all starting to balance our masculine and our feminine that we all have within our circuitry. This is not talking about what gender you are. This is talking about we all have yin yang circuitry, okay? And so this block of days is really good. So if you can do things like pranayama, if you want to come to our book launch, we'll be celebrating this exalted masculine feminine energy. It's a really good way to not get involved in the cosmic fisticuffs that other people may be projecting, and to just really work on your own inner peace. Because then if somebody is kind of on your case about something, you'd just be like, oh, it's just a sign to cultivate even more. Yeah, I'm just going to be, and just you'll see that nothing really is important, okay? And so this is an optimum day for true tantric work, okay? And yeah, that's why we're really happy to launch the book over these days. Okay, so yeah, I think we're nearly done. So the synthesis is that in terms of, oh, it does this little thing, little gremlin. The most intense time is the 15th to the 25th of the month. This is when the Angarak Yoga, the Rahu Mars conjunction, really gets more deep and full on. And yeah, there was another reason I said that. Let me float back. We're also in this kind of purification mode. So yeah, there can be quite a lot going on in those days. So especially the 18th and 19th. Oh, sorry, the little gremlin again. Apologies. So try not to take things personally whilst you're in this month. And as I say, if you really can do things like yoga, mantra recitation, pranayama, anything that's balancing your masculine and feminine, then this will be really good, especially if you do that to warm up that will be a good way to be mentally preparing for mid-month. And just don't get involved in conflict. This is the whole thing. Honor that almost the exaltation of sun and moon is almost like, how would I say, like a glowing paradigm that's sparkling at you to teach you how you should be. So it is almost like a resource that you can then take with you into the more intense part of the month. Do keep your ego in check. Examine your motivations for everything. And don't let things escalate. Stick to your own principles. And when I mean your own principles that should come from a higher place, but don't necessarily, just try to stay away from conflict. Because if we want, you know, I know how many people are really upset about what's happening around the world and these potentialities for war. What we need to do is work on our energetics. And therefore, if you can dedicate your own peacekeeping within your own situations to practicing nonviolence, to withdrawing, to choosing that month for meditation, to being a little bit less zealous about some things, you will get your opportunity to speak out later in the month. And the Rahu Mars conjunction lightens off. It's done by the beginning of June, and then we have this vocalizing possibility. For me, I've been looking at some of this energy and seeing just what an opportunity it is, because I'm going to be writing a second book about world peace, and how it's a great time for me to go within and to really meditate on the processes of Tantra and the processes why there's so much sectarianism out there. Why do people keep aggressing upon their brothers and sisters? What is it in the human condition? So go within, look at your own conflict within, and don't feed into the madness. Utilize it, because you're going to be able to speak up, but from a more rational perspective. Right at the end of the month, when the wind wave spell comes, there's a perfection in this, okay? So if you think of when you get triggered, and if you're somebody who really loves to speak their truth, which is absolutely fine, but sometimes we speak our truth, it's very subjective because we're triggered. If you know, okay, look, I know that from later in the month, I have an opportunity to use my voice, rather than getting hot-headed and trying to point fingers or retaliate or be the aggressor. If you think, I'm going to sit on this, meditate on this, I'm going to really find the pristine speech for what this is that I'm being taught, then you are going to get this beautiful soapbox to do it more diplomatically, and this window of speech that comes right at the end of the month. So I really, really encourage you to just do that, to go through the spiritual motions of sitting with things, doing some analytical meditation if you need to, and then even journaling it, but not necessarily proclaiming things on Facebook or Instagram or outing people or this and that, okay? Because that is, yeah, there's a delusion around that right now that needs to be dealt with, okay? So use this time wisely to examine how you can work on your own impeccability, and then you'll find it's actually not too difficult at all, okay? But let's do what we can to not get embroiled in the drama of the world, because every single one of us who can work on inner peace will help to pay that forward into the collective. And that's the biggest thing you can do right now, okay? If we don't want to see more harrowing pictures, just hold that space, okay? So I want to give gratitude to you for listening, for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of these sorts of transmissions. And yes, I hope you do. Keep on the journey with us. It's an honor and a pleasure to share with you. Gracias, gracias, gracias.